Okay, so I want to say a note about understanding how this idea of for all works in this category set to the power of c. So it's the situation I've already discussed. We suppose we have a relation R, which is a monomorphism from an object capital R to b times a. And as we've already said, um, if we have an object E in the category C, then we can write the set of E, and we consider this for all AR thing to be an inclusion monic, then we can think of the set of E figures of for all A capital R as the set of E figures theta of B, such that theta under arrow times the identity arrow of A is in little r. But we can go further than this. We can really understand this in much more sort of down-to-earth terms. So let's now suppose that R is also an inclusion monic. Okay, so what this kind of condition here is basically saying in this case is it's saying that this kind of arrow here is always going to be in this R. Now we have a result which gives us an equivalent way to say that. I don't think it was the inclusion, I don't think it was a membership lemma, but it's something we came across when we were proving that, and it's definitely something we've referred to before. And the basic idea is that an arrow is going to be in an inclusion monic precisely when everything that gets mapped under that arrow gets mapped into that kind of substructure that that inclusion monic is containing. So we're going to use that idea quite a lot. So I'll just temporarily refer to that as orange star, so I can just call it something. Okay, that result. So yeah, we're going to suppose that little r is an inclusion monic. So here's the idea then. Suppose we have an E-type element theta of B. Now the thing is that we're going to have that theta is in for all A capital R of E. In other words, theta is an E-type figure which is in this sort of inclusion sub-object that we're interested in, if and only if theta under arrow times the identity of A is in R. Well, we knew that. But now think about this. When little r is just this kind of inclusion monic, we can rewrite this to say this happens if and only if this kind of mapping, which is a mapping from hom E comma blank times A to B times A, all of the kind of values that get mapped under this always get mapped to things inside this kind of substructure R of B times A. So the long way to say this is if and only if for every object V of C and for every object S in hom E comma blank of V, so this is just a sort of arbitrary V figure of hom E comma blank, and also for every V figure alpha dash of A, we have that the V component of this arrow sends S and alpha dash into R of V. So that's just a sort of consequence of this orange star result, which I referred to just now. But we can rewrite the left-hand side as the V component of theta under arrow operating on S, comma alpha dash. And indeed, using the kind of Yoneda correspondence, we can actually rewrite this as B of S of theta, comma alpha dash. And so, okay, what's the result of this? What's the meaning? Well, the meaning is quite informative, really. It's telling us that we're going to have that theta is going to be an E figure of for all AR if and only if theta is in this kind of R relation with every A figure of the same type, in other words, with every kind of E-type thing in A, everything in A of capital E, in other words, but also whenever we do any kind of action on theta, for example, if we did an S action on theta, and that would sort of map it to an element of B of V, okay, so we do this kind of thing, we get kind of like B of S of theta, for example, well then that resulting sort of V-type figure also should be in this kind of R relation with every V-type figure of A. Okay, so the meaning of saying that theta is an E-type figure of forall AR is that theta is in this R relation with everything in A that has the same type as theta does, but also if we do any action on theta, then that resulting thing in its resultant type is also going to be in this R relation with everything in A, which also has that appropriate type, which allows us to compare the things. Okay, so that's really what this sort of forall AR means in this category set to the power of C.